Ladies and gentlemen, I am so delighted to be here. On behalf of the Atlantic Council and our board of directors, and we have 4 executive committee members of our board here tonight, Steve Hadley, General Jim Jones, 2 former National Security Advisors of the United States, and 2 of our most wonderful and accomplished diplomats, Ellen Tauscher and Paula Dobriowski, and Ellen Tauscher, also a former congresswoman. So on behalf of our executive committee members, our board, our International Advisory Board, welcome to the 9th Atlantic Council Freedom Awards. We gather here tonight to celebrate individuals from across the world who confront forces of repression and authoritarianism to work to advance human liberty, prosperity, and international peace. For the last 8 years, we have chosen Poland as the home of these awards because perhaps no other place on earth can claim such a rich history in advancing freedom and democracy, particularly when much of Europe was denied such basic human liberty. To hear the President of the United States recite Polish history at some length was questioned by some of my intellectual colleagues. Why does he have to tell the Poles about their own history? But what I heard from my Polish friends was how satisfied they were to hear the President of the United States know and recite for the world the role they have played and the challenges that they have gone through. Poland taught me everything I know about courage, bravery, and freedom. To me, what we do in Poland as the Atlantic Council is certainly of geopolitical importance and certainly incredibly important for the Atlantic Council and its work. But for me, it's also a personal commitment. 37 years ago, I first set foot in Poland as a young correspondent from Newsweek to cover strikes at a Polish shipyard, inspired by a Polish professor and textbook writer of a book called The Soviet Bloc, Zbigniew Brzezinski, who we will honor tonight posthumously. My grandfather was born in Wrocław. Both my parents were born in areas that fell behind the Iron Curtain in East Germany. Most of my family members, extended family members, were in East Germany during the years of the Warsaw Pact. I grew up knowing I was free, and they were not. For me, the story of Poland's freedom, and ultimately the Berlin Wall's fall, and German and European unification is personal, professional, and geopolitical. And I feel deeply that without those days in Poland, without a Polish Pope, without the Solidarity movement and everything that followed it, we would have a different Europe now, and we would have less to fight for, because what we've gained is worth fighting for. Never could we have imagined this week, never could I and the other reporters who came here at this time 37 years ago, that we would be in this hall of a great company, Orlen, PKN Orlen, listed on something called the Warsaw Stock Exchange, the largest company in this part of the world, and we would be in this hall with a Poland that was a NATO and EU member, and we would be welcoming a US president behind whom were standing the soldiers of NATO and the US, hoping to represent and defend Poland's freedom. At the Warsaw Uprising Memorial, it's breathtaking if you just sit back and think about what we've experienced this week. Anyone who wishes to be cynical about the defense of our freedom should not forget how much has been achieved and how many have sacrificed so much to achieve this freedom. And this This is what we come tonight to honor. This is what we should be so concerned about losing, even in small measure. History has its moments of great triumph. History also has its tragic setbacks, and that is what we have to avoid. The Polish Solidarity movement of the 1980s epitomized the conscious collective effort required to reassert freedom. It demonstrated the resilience at the heart of the Polish spirit, which has been tested time and time again in history. While the struggle for freedom continues in many places around the world, the example of Europe, and Poland in particular, reminds us that it is not only possible to claim one's right to democratic expression, to claim one's right to national sovereignty, it is also one's obligation to protect it. The Atlantic Council Freedom Awards honors those who have fought for and promoted the freedoms we enjoy today. That by honoring them in this manner, at this time, and in this place, we hope to inspire others to take up the mantle in the struggle to promote, persevere, and protect universal human freedoms. These awards and their recipients also represent what the Atlantic Council and the Atlantic community represents. This past June, at our Distinguished Leadership Awards, we celebrated the 70th anniversary of the Marshall Plan and its pivotal role in setting the foundation for the institutional international order upon which the unprecedented era of peace and prosperity in our world has witnessed was built. These were the years that gave birth to the United Nations, to the Bretton Woods institutions, to NATO, to the European Union. We honored Jens Stoltenberg, the leader of NATO, with our award, but we also had the Vice President of the United States clearly and robustly speaking out for America's continued defense of NATO's Article 5 collective defense obligations. As Europe and the world finds itself facing a new generation of challenges, the imperative to remain committed to our core values of freedom, democracy, and cooperation could not be more important. Together, as a transatlantic community, we must do everything in our power to protect the notion of freedom as a fundamental value and a building block for our community. This means, and this is what tonight's awardees represent, this means standing up to support women's education in traditionally patriarchal societies. It means dedicating resources to help those fleeing conflict and oppression. It means defending our community against threats to freedom and democracy from within and from abroad, and when necessary, with military force. And it means serving in government with dignity and leadership to ensure that the values we espouse today will continue to define our decisions and actions in the future. Freedom fighters come in all shapes and sizes. So tonight, we honor 5 crusaders at the vanguard of freedom, and you'll hear them later be introduced and receive their awards. We honor Annie Choying Drolma, founder of the Nuns Welfare Foundation of Nepal and UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, for her powerful and inspiring use of music to advocate for the underprivileged women and children of Nepal, who otherwise might be forgotten by the world, and to help them break the cycle of poverty. We honor Dr. Zbigniew Brzezinski posthumously in recognition of his distinguished career defending freedom to be presented by Jerzy Kozminski, a former Freedom Award honoree, and accepted by Dr. Brzezinski's son, Ian, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. We honor a former U.S. ambassador to Poland, Dan Fried, a 40-year veteran of diplomatic service who will receive the Diplomat for Freedom Award, honoring his lifetime achievement for using diplomacy to advance the twin causes of freedom and democracy. Mark Palmer was the first recipient of this award, and we actually hope that we can make this a more regular award and perhaps have many of our allies around NATO send in nominees, because we think that very often it is the diplomats who take extraordinary measures who can be extraordinarily effective. We also mark the historic deployment of defensive U.S. and other NATO forces across Europe with a special award in honor of NATO forces in Central and Eastern Europe. Who would have ever thought? Recognizing the men and women who are helping to ensure the security of Central and Eastern Europe, accepted by the commander of NATO Joint Forces Command Brunssum, General Salvatore Farina. Finally, we will present an award to a deeply, deeply courageous organization, Migrant Offshore Aid Station, or MOAS, represented by founders Christopher, Regina, and Maria Luisa Cantrabone, for steadfast work in the face of humanitarian crisis, organizing sailors, medical personnel, legal counsel, and other ordinary citizen volunteers to save more than 30,000 human spirits, also known as refugees, in search of a better life free from fear. The Atlantic Council deeply thanks the city of Wrocław, and especially, you know something, let me go back for a second. Let's first of all give a round of applause for all these awardees who will be honored tonight. The Atlantic Council also salutes the city of Wrocław, and especially its mayor, Rafał Dudkiewicz, who joins us tonight in Warsaw and has long been an invaluable partner of the Atlantic Council, the Forum, and the Freedom Awards. Mayor Dudkiewicz, where are you? Thank you so much. And we're happy to have Maciej Witucki here, our board member representing us for many years, and one of the founders of these awards. So thank you very much, Maciej. I also want to salute this evening's honorary co-chairs, Poland's Ambassador to the United States, Piotr Wilczek, and U.S. Ambassador to Poland, Paul Jones. Please stand so we can salute you. They're standing backstage because they come on next. Is Mayor Giuliani here? No? Okay, he'll come later. I do want to salute those who made this dinner possible. We have a whole host of sponsors and supporters. I can't list you all, time doesn't allow, but let me thank our platinum sponsors. First of all, sponsor of this evening, and platinum sponsor Orlen, and if I'm going to list 4 or 5 people, if you could stand as I name you. Orlen, Adam Chevsky, platinum sponsor Denton's, platinum sponsor Denton's, Art Krasnodemsky, the British Foreign Commonwealth Office, H&A and Guangyang, Raytheon, yes, thank you. Raytheon and John Harris. Scripps Network and Jim Samples. and work service in Thomas Michniak. And all other supporters of this dinner and of these awards. For this dinner we had Frontera, also East Tennessee Foundation, Victor Ash, and all other supporters of this wonderful forum, 360 OS. Please stand just for a second so we can thank you. Finally, and I really hope you'll give the biggest round of applause here, I want to salute actually 5 teams, and some of them are members of more than one team that produced this last couple of days. I really want to and hold your applause until everybody stands, and then we'll thank them all together. I want to salute our partners, PISM, led by Sławek Dembski. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you all. I want to salute the Atlantic Council. Please, okay. And then the Atlantic Council team, wherever you are, for the Global Forum, and also there's members of the PISM team around here as well. Global Forum, the 3Cs Initiative, OS 360, the Digital Sherlocks, who are fighting back against disinformation, and the Freedom Awards team tonight. Please, all of you who are here, let us applaud you, and please stand up. You don't understand, 3 weeks ago we didn't know we were going to be in Warsaw. We didn't know the President of the United States was coming here. This is an amazing feat. So I'm sure you're eager to move on to the main event, so I will pass the floor now to Ambassador Paul Jones. But before I do, I have to do the most important announcement of the evening, which is join the conversation on Twitter at WG Forum using the hashtag AC Awards. Help us spread the word about these exemplary honorees and the incredible impact they've made on our world. Ambassador Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Paul Jones, Ambassador of the United States to the Republic of Poland.
Thanks so much, Fred. I'm just delighted to be here this evening to co-chair these evening events with my great friend and colleague, Poland's ambassador to Washington, the terrific Piotr Wilczek, who will come out in just a moment, at the conclusion of really an extraordinary week of the Global Forum, the 3Cs Summit, and the visit of President Trump. This is something that many of us have been hoping for and arguing and pushing for a long time, and this trifecta came together beautifully, and I think will be felt in this region for a long time to come. I just want to take a moment to say something about just a couple of our awardees this evening, because they have meant something very personal to me. First, Zbigniew Brzezinski, the guiding light to all U.S. ambassadors to Poland, who was so generous with his time every time I was back in Washington, most recently in March, to have a lively, wonderful conversation. We miss him. To my friend and insistent whisperer on all things European and Poland especially, Dan Fried. We've known each other a long time. And to what General Farina and what he represents, a NATO that acts. I've been up and spent time with the US forces up in Orzysz, way up in northeast Poland, serving alongside Romanian, Croatian, British, and of course our Polish partners. Just 1 year after the NATO summit at which that decision was taken. They're up there, they're fully prepared, they're doing their job defending and deterring for this alliance. And finally, thank you to the Atlantic Council, the great, intelligent, reliable, flexible partner of governments in this region, across the Atlantic community, to get real things done that benefit our security, that benefit the prosperity, that benefit our relations. So delighted to be here. Thank you so much. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency Piotr Wilczek, Ambassador of the Republic of Poland to the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is my great privilege to be here with you this evening and to serve as honorary co-host of the 2017 Atlantic Council Freedom Awards dinner. This evening presents an incredible gathering of leaders, thinkers and visionaries driven together by a common goal of upholding the values that form the foundation of our transatlantic community. I can think of no more fitting evening to celebrate these values than today, the day after the leader of the free world, President Donald Trump's visit to Warsaw. It is times like these that one truly feels that history is being made before our very eyes. Although Washington is very often the world's center of attention, for a few hours yesterday it was Warsaw that held this special honor. And tonight we are gathered together to honor individuals who have worked tirelessly to promote transatlantic solidarity, respect for human rights, and more importantly, freedom. 2017 could easily be described as a challenging year so far. However, it could just as well be described as promising. Real gains are being made in the fight to defeat ISIS. For the first time in many years, NATO's eastern flank has true deterrence capabilities, and Allied solidarity is stronger than ever, as shown in the commitment to increase defense spending. Today's dinner is an important opportunity to remind us all that the freedom and security we cherish so dearly is not free. For decades, many toiled so that Poland and captive nations around the world could once again enjoy their God-given right to freedom and independence. And today, many are continuing their work to ensure that this hard-won freedom is never again lost. Let us take note of the words President Trump declared yesterday in Warsaw. We must value the dignity of every human life, protect the rights of every person, and share the hope of every soul to live in freedom. I wish to thank the Atlantic Council, Fred Kemper, Damon Wilson, Michał Kobosko, and all these instrumental in organizing tonight's event for their efforts and determination. I extend my sincere congratulations to all of this evening's honorees. Their contributions to the cause of freedom around the world will long be remembered. Thank you.